So first question is, why do you write this? Did you write this book?
Well, I think I was hearing my friends discussing a lot of subjects on love and sex, and not only my friends, but my friends' friends, and they've been actually reading about this stuff for years. So I know that there is a lot of literature on this. Not only literature, but also philosophical, sociological. I knew there was a lot of material that I wanted my friends to have, and every other girl my age. I think many times young women like us, we are underestimated. People think they cannot read books that have a lot of footnotes and that have a lot of scientific literature, and they actually can. So that's what I wanted to do, to get the literature, the specific literature on love and sex, to become more available for young women.
Okay, so did you write your book for your friends? Like, did you have a special, like a reader in mind?
Definitely, yeah. I was mostly thinking of young women. But the funny thing is, since the book has come out in Argentina and in Spain and in Italy and in Uruguay, Colombia, whatever, people from every other age and every other gender have written to me. I thought it was a book for straight girls, really. And I hear from women who are in their 70s, I hear from men who are in their 50s, I hear from gay men, from lesbian women, and many of them have connected with the book. So I think I wrote for my friends, but the book is not just for my friends.
Great. And were there a part that were more difficult to write, or like which one was the most difficult part to write and which one was the easier part to write?
Well, I think the easier part for me has always been the part where you have to work with research, with evidence, with data, because I majored in philosophy and I'm used to working with difficult texts, and I've always liked, making them more clear. That's something I've always been good at. I think the hardest part is to make it like an enjoyable book to read, which is something that is very difficult when you're working with so many information. And that's when I thought about including my personal history, right? My life in an Orthodox community. That's, it's not because I think my story is worth telling, because my story is the story of everybody. It's just that I thought my story made the book more fun, more easy to connect to. Accessible, personal, and it gives it a narrative. I mean, I'm a writer. I want the book to be enjoyable, to be beautiful, not only informational.
Yeah, I thought one of the most interesting part was actually you including your personal story, because you actually put it at some point, the famous slogan, "The personal is political." And for instance, for some, like the Radical Party, that means putting your body up front. But I think you do like a step more in the book, which is putting your identity up front. Like when you talk about the construction, if you want like to talk more about that bit.
Of course. I think it was actually, it was a difficult thing to do, and I thought it was a political act, you're right. It was a hard thing to do because it is very hard to speak about a world you have abandoned. It's very hard to speak about a world, a religious world you're against, I didn't want my book to be full of hatred towards the Jewish community, because I don't really hate them. So sometimes I did when I was younger, of course. And I always try to understand women who stay in those kind of communities, and I try to give them the agency they have. I don't like portraying them as victims. That's not what I wanted to do. But I did want to use that world to explain to young women who are very sad sometimes and very anguished and whatever, that we have the best problems we could have, the problems of freedom. You have the problems that have of girls who do not have to marry one guy, can marry whomever, or not marry at all. So those are the best problems you can have. That's something I wanted to make clear, because I think millennials sometimes, we can think we have the worst, and we do not have the worst.
Yeah, you do deconstruct modernity as well, like modern society where you have like freedom of choice and everything.
Yeah, of course, I would never say that. I think I've always thought of myself as a critical modern, you know. Eva Illouz, who I quote, has said the same thing. She uses a similar expression, you know, like critical modernity, like Habermas and Eva Illouz and many other theorists who, you know, I think we cherish the rights that modernity has given to people. But of course, we know modernity is, an unfinished process. So we do not have all the rights and the freedoms we should have. We should keep fighting for them. And there are traps in modernity. Some things that look like freedoms might not be freedoms at all. So while I celebrate many of the conquests that modernity has given women, like the right to work and the right to have an independent life and an economic life, I know that modernity has also brought many traps, like, romantic love, right?
Yeah, in the book you also talk about kind of like media and how these myths form our concept of modern love. You talk about Romeo and Juliet, you talk about Gone with the Wind or like Sex and the City. Are these the myths that create modern love or romantic love, or there are more?
Yeah, I think, Romeo and Juliet is the foundational myth of romantic love and of modern love, which are the same thing, actually, you know. It's the founding myth, and it's one that we keep on reproducing. I mean, if you look at a soap opera today, it will still be Romeo and Juliet, right? So those are the foundational myths, and in some way we still believe that kind of love, a love that takes over your whole life, is something that we are aiming for. But the funny thing is, they're myths, and they have always been myths. No woman, or not many women, have lived a Romeo and Juliet story. Most of them have just saw them in the movies and then married some guy they found, right? So that's the dualistic nature of modern love. There is a fiction and there is a reality, and we're always living between those.
And still on modern love, you talk about technology, like dating app, like Tinder or Happen. Do you think we shape technology, or is it technology that shapes us? No,
I definitely think we shape technology, and I definitely think technology always comes to, you know, it's supply and demand. If an app works, it is because there was a social demand for it, not the other way around. I think, for example, when with dating apps, you know, Tinder, whatever. They came around in a moment where other kind of social formations were dissolving. So, where were people meeting before that? You know, it's not like you're meeting in church like your grandparents did in the 90s or in the early aughts, right? You are not meeting in the community, whatever, you know. Those places were starting to disappear. The internet provided a new place for people to meet people in big cities, you know, where people usually don't know each other. It's like when you talk to people and say, oh, but I like to meet people like in the supermarket. Who meets people in the supermarket? Or whatever. People don't do that. So I think dating apps came to fulfill a need that was already there. And whatever bad thing happened in Tinder, it happens in real life. I mean, if you say people of color get less likes, that happens in real life. Like fat women get less, that happens in real life. That Tinder didn't invent that. Tinder cannot invent racism, cannot invent beauty standards. That's all us, right? Yeah, that's true. Last question, motherhood. For some, it's something that maybe they see this right denied for them. Another, actually, for others, like an imposed duty. An imposed duty what? Motherhood. Yeah. How do we come out of that? In what way? Explain the question a bit better. For some, like, they leave motherhood as a right that I understand. Yeah. For others, it's not like that. It's an imposition. Yeah, I understand. Well, I think it's for women, it's very difficult to. For many women, it can be very difficult to know if they want to be mothers because society values motherhood or because they value motherhood. very difficult, and it's a problem because motherhood is the one choice you cannot take back. So in our world where commitment is so difficult, it's a very difficult choice to make because a couple, marriage, whatever, you can dissolve that. You cannot dissolve motherhood. So I think that's a very difficult choice in this time, and I think what should be the goal for us when educating young girls, young women, is to show them positive models of women who are not mothers and positive life ideas. Women cannot be a mother, and they can be happy and they can lead meaningful lives. And I think if girls see that around, well, many of them will still want to be mothers, but they will not think of it as, okay, will my life have meaning or will it not? They will think about it in terms of desire, which is what motherhood should be. Motherhood should be like sex, like something you feel you want to do and you do it. So I think we're still a long way, but we have to start building those models for girls and women.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's all.
Okay.
Thank you very much for
Thank
your
you.
time.